Activists. Now, here's your host, Jane Velez-Mitchell.
Welcome. I hope you are filled with joy and happiness. I certainly am. I am so excited that last night watching the Oscars, Joaquin Phoenix spoke the truth. He took a moment where he had an opportunity to speak, and he spoke the truth and told people, get over your arrogance, get over your sense of entitlement. You are causing unnecessary suffering to animals and the planet by consuming animals and their byproducts, using the example of a mother cow ripped from her baby, ripped from her. It was, I think, a game-changing moment in our movement to encourage people to adopt a peaceful plant-based diet. I am so excited to be here with one of my heroes, Tracye McQuirter. And we know her from By Any Greens Necessary. She's an amazing author, nutritionist, public speaker, dynamic public speaker. And now Tracye has a brand new campaign that is so exciting. I will let her take it away and tell you all about it.
Hey, Jane, how are you?
I'm great. So glad to have you on.
It's great to be back on with you. I am thrilled that you're having me on today to talk about my new program. It's called 10,000 Black Vegan Women. And basically what I'm doing is helping 10,000 Black women go vegan in 2020. We had a soft launch last week, and we already have 1,200 people signed up. So we're very excited about that. The official launch is in May. And so leading up to that, the people who, we're gathering our 10,000 women movement up to May for our official launch.
Exciting. I love it. And I want to say that a lot of people have a tendency to view our movement as this province of white male elitists. And I often say, no, that's not true. Look at the leaders of the movement, often women and women of color. Obviously, Ingrid Newkirk, the leading voice from the beginning, a female. And then you have people like yourself. I'm Puerto Rican and Irish, so I'm putting myself in the women of color category. And you have so many incredible chefs. Look at Chef Charity Morgan.
Yes.
If there's one person who has really been a game changer, and I use that intentionally because her work was featured in the movie The Game Changers, that was also a seminal turning point where she essentially helped a good portion of a team that has done very well go vegan. Are you going to be able to incorporate some of those stories? Tell us Charity Morgan's story. You may know it even better than I do. And will you be able to incorporate some of those success stories into your narrative?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is part of what we are doing. We're reaching out to other influencers, Black women in the vegan movement who've been doing this work for a very long time and who are kind of new to the game as well. And we are all doing the same work. So, which I think.
Okay. Well, we had a little bit of a hiccup there, but Zach. There, continue on. It was a hiccup. You know how it is with the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I was just saying that we are reaching out to Black women vegan influencers to help spread the word. We're all doing the same work. We all have the same goal. And I knew about Charity before Game Changers, but I learned much more about the work she was doing through the movement, through the movie Game Changers. But I will say that Black women, Black people in general have been pioneers in this movement, as you know, as we've talked about. There is an HBCU that is a Black Seventh-day Adventist school, started in the late 1890s. And they had vegetarian cuisine. They had vegetarian food when they started in the 1890s. Obviously we were primarily plant-based, most of us coming from West Africa through enslavement here. And so we carry that tradition through the South on up through the civil rights movement. You have Rosa Parks, who was a vegetarian. You have Dr. Alvenia Fulton, who started the very first health food store and restaurant on the South Side of Chicago in the 1950s. And the reason that I mention her as one of my heroes is that she helped influence Dick Gregory to become vegan in 1967. He went vegetarian in 1965 because of the practice of nonviolence during the civil rights movement. Then Dr. Alvenia Fulton, and that was because of animal rights reasons, right? He extended the practice of nonviolence to animals. And then he became vegan because of Dr. Alvenia Fulton's work with him. And he influenced Coretta Scott King, Dexter King, so many other people in the movement, and me in 1986 to become vegan. So I'm a, part of that legacy.
Wow. So let me ask you, what is your program going to look like for, let's say, first of all, is it still open to others? Let's say there's a person watching who says, wow, I want to take advantage of this. How do they take advantage of it? And what is it going to look like?
So they go to 10,000blackveganwomen.com. That's the website. They sign up. And what they get right away when they sign up is a Weekend Vegan 2-day jumpstart. And so that has recipes, meal plan done for you, grocery shopping list, meal prep tips, so they can get started going vegan right away on their own. And no matter where you are on the eating spectrum, everybody can eat vegan for 2 days. So that's what you get immediately. And then leading up to the May launch, you get inspirational and nutrition tips from me every week leading up to that. And the program begins in May. And those will be 21-day fresh starts. So every 21 days for the rest of the year, we will be live online going vegan together.
That's incredible. Why is it 21 days? Now, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and knock on wood, April 1st, I will have 25 years of sobriety. Now, I know that there's a reason why rehab is at least 28 days in that range, because it takes that amount of time to change your taste buds, change your psychological outlook. I'll never forget, when I went vegan about, I would say, I wish I had my date the way I have it, my sobriety date, but it was after I got sober, and it was pretty shortly after that. No coincidence. I had some more clarity, and I stopped being a sort of, undisciplined, sort of all over the map vegetarian, and became a vegan. But when I accidentally, after going vegan a month later, somebody put Parmesan cheese in my salad, and I tasted it and I spat it out. And I used to love Parmesan cheese. So in that 28 days, my taste buds totally changed. Do you expect that to happen with the women you're working with?
Absolutely. I mean, you said it. Some people say it takes 21 days. Some people say it takes 14 days. Some people say it takes 30 days, 40 days. The bottom line is you have to get in there and do it, right? And the time that it takes you is the time that it takes. But the point of the program is that we all are doing it together, eating the same foods, and having each other for online support. So I fully expect people to experience shifts in their taste buds, to experience shifts and their understanding about why they're eating the foods that they eat, because the entire first week will be education. So it's not just food for me. It's about social justice. It's about the food system. It's about the health stats of Black women. So I want us to be grounded first in this knowledge, so we have a foundation of why we are doing this. And then we go into the food.
Now, let me talk a little bit about the disproportionate impact that African-American women experience as a result of animal agriculture. It's health stats. It's also where, for example, slaughterhouses and other toxic animal agriculture industries are located in communities. And this was documented in the film Cowspiracy.
Exactly.
In communities of color and in the African-American community. And there was a scene in that movie where the factory farm was literally spewing feces of factory farmed animals into the area where this woman lived, to the point where she couldn't even have sit outside of her own house. Can you address that?
Or open her windows. I mean,
let me jump in, because we do have a caller and sometimes we lose them. I want you to take that in a second. But Marshall from North Carolina, what is your question or thought? Marshall? Marshall? Oh, she left. That's why I jump in. People are, it's ADD culture. If you don't grab the call right away, they leave. So
did someone else come in? It looks like
no,
okay.
we're gonna, but we'll get callers. But anyway, continue addressing what the question I asked. Sorry to interrupt.
So it's an excellent point. And this is why this is such an all-encompassing issue. So you have communities where slaughterhouses are located. And the one you're talking about specifically is a pig factory farm. And I believe this one is in North Carolina. And basically they sued the company, and they were basically, as you said, spewing pig feces all across this community. It was covering their homes, their cars, their clotheslines. I mean, they couldn't go outside. They couldn't open their windows. This is insane. And they were trying to get away with it, right? And of course, they're locating in communities of color that are low income because they think that they are not going to fight back. But these folks fought back, as they should. And so it's affecting us living next to slaughterhouses, is affecting us as workers in slaughterhouses, because that's often one of the few jobs that is available in certain communities in the South that are low income and communities of color. And then you've got the issue of us actually eating the food, right? And the health issues that arise from that. So Black women have the highest rates of diabetes. We have the highest rates of heart disease. We have the highest rates of unhealthy weight, obesity, and overweight. We get breast cancer at younger ages, but it's caught at later stages, so we die the most. I mean, and there's, what I always say is, this is not a surprise. When you're living in a culture, you're living in a society that is a white, that's based on white supremacy and patriarchy. Black women are going to be the most targeted by that. And so that's really the issue that we're dealing with. So it's no surprise that we are, having the worst health outcomes in the country. But we absolutely have been and will continue to take back control of our health.
And we are joined by our lovely mascot, Little Rico, who is a rescue from Puerto Rico. And we will never do a show, if we can, without Little Rico, because everybody loves and asks me for Little Rico. Let me ask you a provocative question.
Okay.
A lot of times I have heard people in the African American community, and this is replicated in many other communities, cite their culture as a justification for eating animals. And so saying, well, it's in my culture to eat these foods. Don't mess with that. And again, it's every culture does that. I'm half Irish, I'm half Puerto Rican. They both do it. The Italians do it. Yeah. But in addressing the African American community, how do you address that point?
So what I say is, I go to the history and I show examples of Black folks who are pioneers in the vegan movement and how this is a cultural way to eat. There has always been a river of Black folks who have been promoting veganism, who have been vegan, who have owned vegan businesses, restaurants, cafes, carryouts, and right along this big mighty ocean of the majority of Black folks who are eating meat and dairy-based food, right? It has always existed. And this is what I tell people. And I connect the dots. So I give them examples, like for myself in Washington, DC, right? I'm born and raised in DC. I became a vegan because of a lecture that Dick Gregory gave my sophomore year at Amherst College, right? My junior year, I took away, and the first semester I went to Kenya, second semester Howard University. So I was walking back and forth to Howard as a new vegetarian. And I discovered that there was this large Black vegan community in DC, literally in my backyard, that I knew nothing about. And Jane, they had the first 100% vegan establishments in Washington, DC, Black folks in low-income communities. There were 12 of them. So this is what I'm saying. This is where I learned how to be vegan. You're raising your hand. I'm talking to you.
We've got 2 calls now, so I want to jump on them. Shannon from Florida, what is your question or thought? Shannon from Florida.
I just want to say how important it is. Thank you so much for talking about the workers. We go to slaughterhouses all over the country and we talk to the workers. And you're right, it's almost all minority workers. And it's so sad. No one should have to wake up and go to work at a place that's specifically designed to murder and dismember the most innocent beings on the planet. And all these people who work at these places tell us how much they hate their jobs and how they wish that they didn't have to go to them. And because people have had struggles in their lives, there shouldn't be jobs like this to begin with. No one should have to go to work there.
Thank you so much. And I just want to jump on. That's a very good point. And we're going to get more into that, Shannon, on the other side of the break. But while we have 1 minute left before the break, Mary from DC, what is your question or thought, Mary from DC?
Yeah. Hi, Ben. Thank you so much for all the important work you do. My question is, what if you're already vegan, but you're looking for some new and inspirational recipes? Is it still okay to sign up at 10,000blackwomenvegan.com?
Yes, absolutely. If you're already vegan, you're going to get inspiration. You're going to get new recipes. You're going to get nutrition tips. So absolutely, if you're already vegan, please join up and bring some vegan curious friends and family with you. Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. I love it. Now, we are going to take a short break on Voice America, but we're going to stay live on Facebook. And we are here still live on Facebook with the amazing Tracye McQuirter. And I know everybody always asks for little Rico and little Rico. I have 3 dogs, or I could say they have me. But Rico is the one who's the best behaved. So he comes up on our episode.
I remember them, meeting them at your house.
Yes. So I am so excited about this. You know, it really is extraordinary. I was just posting on janeunchained.com. We do a weekly email blast. First things first, everybody share this out. Share this out. I just shared it out to my own personal page and I'm sharing it out to another page. Do you want to take a second to share it out? Please keep it on 0 audio so we don't get any feedback. We'd really like to have everybody share this out right now. That's how we spread the word. So have you shared it? You shared it?
Yes.
Okay.
I have shared it. Yes.
Yes, great. Okay, our live feed right here.
Okay.
Thanks to the miracle of you. Just go to facebook.com/Jane Velez-Mitchell. Those of you who are watching are already there. And then you just hit the share button. And
about 30 seconds till I send you the sound.
Share it to your friends, your family. And that way we expand the number of people exponentially who are watching this. So that's very important. And please do that with any video. And yes, we have talked about Joaquin already, but we're going to talk about him a little bit more.
I'm going to send you the sound in 10 seconds.
Okay. Right, Rico? Getting ready.
You are listening to Jane Unchained. To reach the show today, call in to 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email in to janeunchainednews@gmail.com. Now back to the show.
All right. And Nija Wright Brown, I hope I pronounced that correctly, says, "Hey, Tracye McQuirter, looking good." And Gabe Boria said, "I shared, everyone share. Thank you so much."
Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people who want to know what you think of that moment that occurred last night. This will be airing on Spotify and iTunes, in 2 years, but we are happen to be talking the night after Joaquin Phoenix won Best Actor for the Joker at the Oscars, and used his moment on the world stage to send a message to everyone in the world that animal agriculture is causing horrific, unnecessary cruelty. What's your take on what happened, Tracye?
I didn't watch the Oscars, but I did read this morning what he said. And of course, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, to use the platform that he had, the huge platform, to talk about this issue and to talk about it in detail. Exactly what happens to cows, how, they're all of that graphic detail. That is the kind of thing that people don't want to hear, but need to hear. And he had the opportunity to share it, and unexpectedly, so people were kind of caught off guard about it. So I think it was a really powerful moment, and good for him. And so many people are rightly so fighting against climate change, and they're doing all these kinds of actions, right? And you ask them, well, are you? And they say no. It's because most of them don't.
Hey, somebody's messing around. So if you're back in the control room, sorry. Oh, you know what it is? And I hope I pronounced her name right. Naja? Naja is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, will you give us your question or thought?
Okay.
Give us your question or thought.
I just wanted to say, Tracye, publishing the African American Vegan Starter Guide. I have to tell you, we've distributed probably tens of thousands of copies of that guide. It's like the best thing ever. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Nija, for that, and for all that you do at Land of Kush and Vegan Soul Fest in Baltimore every year. And yes, you all do distribute. This is the guide. I'll show you. Jane, you talked about this last year.
Yes.
Or 2 years ago when it came out. And we've distributed now 500,000 copies of those for free. And speaking of African Americans and vegans, Black History Month, and this program that I'm doing, this is a free guide that is specifically by and for African American vegans. So thanks for the shout out.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling in. So I interrupted you because, again, when we get these callers, we have to grab them when they come in. So continue on.
Yeah, so I think we were just talking about this, the Joaquin speech, and how powerful it was, and the fact that he caught people off guard. They weren't expecting it, and that makes it even more powerful. And I think I had just ended with the fact that people are rightly so being activists. They're enraged about the issue of global warming and climate change. But when you ask them if they're vegan, most folks say no, because they don't know the connection, right? And Joaquin has been out here, doing climate action as well, and talking about it on those stages as well. So I think it's great.
Now, it's so funny. Speaking of the African American community, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and I saw I think that's where the Civil Rights Museum is. It was very long time ago. And it was such an educational thing to learn why the African American churches were more political than perhaps other churches, more vocally political, because the news media back in the day of Jim Crow and even up to almost modern times, perhaps even including today, was not covering the issues that were of importance to the African American community. So whether it was schools, whether it was whatever it was, okay, it didn't get covered. So in essence, they created their own newsroom and publicized the issues and discussed the issues in the church. I thought that was fascinating. And I saw a huge parallel to, for example, the animal rights movement, where Joaquin Phoenix gives a speech and a lot of the mainstream media just cut that right out. They didn't talk about that. And luckily, we have social media.
Right.
We have what we're doing right now on Facebook and Instagram, and it's all over social media. It's like there's two worlds. So social media is going on and on and on about Joaquin talked about the animals, but the major networks Crickets.
That's-
You know why? Look at the advertisers, meat, dairy, pharmaceuticals. Can you address that and whether there is a parallel?
Well, I mean, there's obviously a parallel because anytime you're fighting for social justice, you're an activist and you're working with folks who are the most impacted by those kinds of issues and those movements. The mainstream media, I don't really use that term because, Jane, any stream that I swim in is the mainstream. So that's the truth. That's how I feel about it. And I get that just from my mom and my family and just being involved in this movement. You have to see yourself as the center and know that, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of justice is going to bend towards you, right? So I don't really worry about that. As you said, social media is doing this, is making this go viral. And, those of us who've been doing this work before the internet happened, we understand the power of the work we do in communities with folks on the ground. And that's what it's all about.
I use a parallel to another time too. In the time of, like, for example, communism in Russia, where people were literally printing out leaflets and handing them out because if they were caught, they would be arrested. And so the internet is our leaflet.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing an end run around the media, whatever you want to call them. But it's irresponsible journalistically to cover somebody's speech and then not refer to that and literally cut it out and only focus on the fact that he said, I've been difficult to work with. That was a wonderful revelation, but it was said in connection with his other comment about, I'm not coming from up here when I tell you guys to stop stealing the breast milk of another species.
Right.
So
you're absolutely right about that. I mean, it is not right now in the interest of corporate media to talk about these issues because, of the advertising, the food advertising industry, which is the biggest industry in the country. That is their bread and butter. Or a large part of their bread and butter. So absolutely, it's not a surprise, but the more that we do this work and the more that people go vegan, they are going to shift because they're going to follow the money.
And getting back to an earlier point that you made, when I traveled to Atlanta, there's one place I go to first, and that is Vegan Soul Food. Do you know that place? It is
Soul vegetarian. Is it soul vegetarian?
Soul vegetarian, but it's vegan.
Yeah.
I messed up the name. It's vegan.
Yeah.
And that is such a fantastic place. And it's been there a very long time. I dare say it's probably the first vegan restaurant in Atlanta. I don't have the proof, but getting to your point that, yes, the African-American community is extremely involved in veganism. But yet there is this, just like they try to say, the industries that are fearful of us have tried to equate, they try to emasculate vegan men. There was a whole soy boy campaign that they put. I think they also do try to appeal to the African-American community, particularly men and meat. Do you see that? And how do you counteract that? I know you're focusing on women, but those women often live with men, and that's another factor in the equation.
Yeah. In fact, this is really an interesting question because yes, that is definitely true. Meat is considered masculine, vegetables are considered feminine, right? And Carol J. Adams was one of the folks who talked about that, right, from the 70s, and has really, expanded that kind of work. And so that's in general in our society, right? And in particular, when it comes to African Americans, it's interesting because of the social justice aspect of veganism for Black folks, like and the spiritual and religious aspects of it too. Soul vegetarian is an example. Soul vegetarian was started by African Hebrew Israelites based here in the States, right? So their veganism is a part of their self liberation and self evolution, them eating the healthiest foods available. So, and then you have folks like Dick Gregory who did it for social justice reasons, right? So because you have these other aspects to it, it's these dots are connected. That message of veganism and femininity and meat or omnivorism and masculinity is not, in my experience as in doing this work for more than 30 years, is not as powerful as it is overall, right? Because there's so many reasons that people go into veganism within Black culture, and social justice and religion and spirituality, you know, is part of that.
Well, and what about the argument that don't look at the food you're eating here historically, look at the food that you ate in your homeland.
Yeah.
For example, Ethiopia. There's a little Ethiopia here that has some of the best vegan restaurants in LA. It's on Fairfax Boulevard. And they are eating food from Ethiopia, the real Ethiopian food. Do you make that connection? Like, don't confuse food that you grew up eating with food that's really connected to your heritage or your homeland. I'm not sure I'm expressing it the right way, but
you absolutely are. And I think that, you know, I touched on it a little bit before, but yes, I mean, we, you know, traditional cuisines around the world are plant-based. This isn't anything new, right? Us calling it vegan or calling it plant-based cuisine. Most cuisines, if they are plant-based, if they used meat or dairy, it was as an add-on or as a condiment or flavor, more added flavor, additional flavor, but not as the main source of food and nutrients. And so here, for Black folks coming through enslavement and then through the South and then, you know, spreading out after enslavement, we created African American cuisine based on what we knew and was passed down, but also just based on the fact that we were agrarian, right, during enslavement and afterwards. And so our food was plant-based even here. You know, fried chicken and ham hocks and, you know, macaroni and cheese and all these kinds of heavier meat and dairy-based foods, those are occasion foods. Those are things that you eat at family reunions, at funerals, at weddings, at social gatherings, but that's not everyday food. My mother, for example, who went vegan with me 30 years ago when she was in her 50s, she's from Camden, South Carolina. They did not eat meat every day. They mainly ate meat on Sundays. So, you know, again, folks, when you make these kind of connections, they understand, they're nodding their heads because they know that this is their experience from the South themselves or through their, you know, the experiences of their relatives.
well, I think it's so important to make that connection so that people aren't unconsciously co-signing and endorsing their own oppression. And we can talk about it with women too. Women who march, and I was at the Women's March, marching for feminism. And yet, if you try to talk to them about the violation of the ultimate feminism in the sense that all factory farm animals are essentially raped into existence.
Exactly.
It's very, you know, you have to break through that reluctance to want to tell people don't co-sign your own repression and oppression.
Right. Yeah, you know, we had the same experience back in the day when we were in the 80s and 90s protesting whatever war du jour it was. A lot of our friends would go to fast food places afterwards, and my sister and I would go to the vegan spots, and we would try to talk to them about, you know, how these two things are connected, right? You're protesting war, you're protesting exploitation, but yet you're going to McDonald's or you're going to Burger King or you're going to Wendy's and you're eating these hamburgers. And this is exploitation too, in a different way. So we've had these conversations, and I think you just continue to have them. You continue to have them, be an activist, and you model it. I mean, I am an unexpected vegan. If not for this lecture, with Dick Gregory at Amherst in 1986, my sophomore year, I would not probably have gone vegan then. And I wasn't interested. I was an unhealthy eater despite my mother's best efforts. We brought him there to talk about the little state of Black America. Instead, he spent 2.5 hours talking about why Black folks should be vegan and tracing a hamburger from a cow on a factory farm through the slaughterhouse process to a fast food restaurant to a hamburger to a clogged artery. And that rocked my entire world. That was an unexpected lecture. So you just have to keep talking about it with folks, you know? That's the message. Through documentary, through conversation, through books, lectures, everything.
I would love to see all those lectures, if they're on camera, be rebroadcast. That would be incredible. That would be something that would be so amazing to have one of those vegan lectures by Dick Gregory on, it may be on YouTube. I'll have to look for it. So you've written many books. You are very prolific. I don't know how you do it all. Can you tell us about the books you've written and how this is sort of it's all leading up to this campaign, 10,000 Black vegan women?
Right. So the first book that I wrote was by Any Greens Necessary, and this is the 10th anniversary of that book. And that book was for Black women, right? It was the first vegan diet book for Black women, 2010. So I actually created this campaign because I wanted to do something big around the 10th anniversary of my first book. And I came up with this idea to, you know, kind of reignite what that book started. And that's really what I'm trying to do so that I can get, you know, this issue is still urgent. And that book was very influential for the last 10 years, which is awesome. And there's so many more Black folks who are vegan and who are vegan activists, as we know. But the majority of us are still in a health crisis. So that's really where this idea came from, to just, you know, get in here in the trenches and for this 10th anniversary of the book, do something really big and bold and help 10,000 Black women go vegan in 1 year, and then lead up to 100,000 in a year. Yes.
Well, you raise a very important point. And a lot of us feel that we keep talking, we keep having breakthroughs. You see people much more open to the idea of plant-based due to climate change. And by the way, I will give a plug, my documentary through our Jane Unchained Countdown to Year Zero. It's on Amazon Prime, and it explains the connection between animal agriculture and climate change and how it's being underestimated by the powers that be, that it's much more destructive than any other force, but that is not being acknowledged by the powers that be that are influenced by the meat, dairy, and pharmaceutical industry. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry has more lobbyists than any other industry in the United States, and they would collapse if people got healthy. They wouldn't need cholesterol drugs. They wouldn't need the erectile dysfunction drugs. They wouldn't need a lot of the other drugs that these companies are making billions on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I see sometimes is we have breakthroughs, we have the Joaquin Phoenixes, and yet there is a large percentage of the population that refuses to budge. And it's across the board, but it also does include the African-American community. How do you deal with that intransigence?
You know, I stay positive and I stay focused on the goal and the mission. And I'm an activist at heart. Like, I am always working on causes. And so I understand do we have a caller?
We got a caller, so I'm going to jump in. Yes. Let's go to Circe from Georgia. Circe, oh, she's gone. Lisa from California. Whoever's on, just ask a question. Oh, we need to hit a break. Okay, they're all gone. Hasta la vista, babies. We're going to hit a quick break. It's funny, you know, just talking about it. When I see the callers, I almost have to interrupt you because
please do. Don't worry.
ADD culture, they call, oh, she can't talk to me right this second? well, then I'm gone.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hello, wait a minute. I mean, some people, you know, back in the day when I used to do radio, people would wait for a half an hour to ask a 30-second question.
It's all right.
Anyway, that's life.
Yeah.
And thank you for, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but then I see the question. I'm like, I want to get that question in. But we're getting a lot of comments, tons of comments on Facebook. And let's just look at a little bit because we're on Facebook right now.
Okay.
We've already gotten 47 comments here. Oh, Ellen Dent, our Jane Unchained, one of our top Jane Unchained writers is watching.
Wonderful.
And yes. Oh, Debbie Eckel says it would be so great to have more Black people in the cube of truth. Now, I don't know. I haven't done any kind of survey. Do you see, you know, I was at the pig vigil last night and it was very well represented, an extremely diverse group. I don't see any, I don't see that there's any paucity of, you know, people in the African American community at the Cubes of Truth, but I never really thought about it.
You are listening to Jane Unchained. To reach the show today, call in to 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email in to janeunchainednews@gmail.com. Now back to the show.
All right, we're here with the amazing Tracye McQuirter of By Any Means Necessary new campaign, 10,000 vegan, Black vegan women. I'm hearing that there's a caller. Please talk. Who's on the phone?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, speak.
Hey, Jane, I just wanted to say to Tracye, my name is Lisa Carlin. I'm a Food for Life instructor, and I just did a 21-day vegan kickstart for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine in collaboration with Jane Unchained News. And I wanted our listeners to know when they download the 21-day vegan kickstart app, there are probably, 8 videos with you, Tracye, and either Maggie Miola or Susan Levin, 2 of the dietitians at Physicians Committee, and I just want everybody to know that they can hear you talk about all these incredible concepts in nutrition. This app is free, and you're on our videos.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Now, Cersei is back. Cersei, what is your question or thought? Cersei.
Hi, Tracye. Hi, everyone. Tracye, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you're doing, and I'm really amazed by the 10,000 Black women that you do. You were one of the, instrumental people in bringing me on the plant-based path, with your By Any Greens Necessary, and so I want to thank you for that. And I also wanted to just say that it's activism happens in your own space, and for me, I realized that there was a disconnect in the church. I know we were talking about the whole social movement thing, but there's a disconnect in the church where we weren't really talking about the environment and animal rights and also taking care of ourselves spiritually and physically and healthy. And so because of all of your work, I decided that's a path that I wanted to take to bring awareness and to bring the vegan message. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And if you had any suggestions and thoughts on just how we could use the church as a platform to bring that message to so many people that need it for, like you said, health reasons, but also to bring in spirituality in the sense that to care for our planet and the animals as well.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you so much. You made my day with that comment. Thank you. And absolutely, more power to you. And, there are churches that are involved, but obviously not the majority. And that is part of where the advocacy needs to take place. So continue doing what you're doing, obviously. And one of the things that I would recommend is that you have African American vegan starter guides. This guide, go to AfricanAmericanVeganStarterGuide.com and get these printed guides. You can get up to 500 per order for free shipping, and just have them available in your church every Sunday. That's number one. And then and you can get it as a PDF download. And then number two, when your church serves food after the service or whenever it serves food, incorporate vegan food. Just make sure that they incorporate vegan food, and then find out what vegan folks are in your area. Is there a Black vegan group in your city? Are there vegan meetups? Are there folks that can come and talk to your church, your health ministry, about the importance of eating plant-based food? So start with those three things.
We have a question on Facebook, Michelle Brown. I have a desire to go vegan, but I do have a hard time with cutting out fish and dairy. What's the best way to do that, especially with regard to eating those for thyroid issues and menopause?
Okay. Join 10,000blackveganwomen.com. That's number one, because we will be talking about these issues as part of the education portion of the program. And just in general, I talk about some of these issues in my second book, Ageless Vegan. So you can check that out from the library or a bookstore. And I also always recommend nutritionfacts.org, nutritionfacts.org. It's a website that was created by my friend, Dr. Michael Greger. And you can type in thyroid issues. You can type in any issue that you have, and there will be a study a video about studies that have come up regarding that issue and how you can address it with plant-based nutrition if research has been done. So that's what I would suggest.
We've got another caller, Nico, on hold. Nico, your question or thought?
Hey, how you doing? I'm calling in to support my sister Tracye.
Hey, Nico.
I greatly appreciate. How you doing, Tracye?
Good. How are you?
I greatly appreciate you, Jane, for having her on the show and giving her this platform. The reason why I'm calling is because I just like to make sure that that our women, our Black women, are getting the support that they deserve. I think it's been a big problem out here in the community. I see so many women going in the right path and doing what they need to do for their health, while the men who tend to, for whatever reason, feel prideful, they don't go see the doctor like they should, and it's a lot of communal issues between us, and where we need to really support each other and back them. And I totally in support of what Tracye is doing and helping, because it's not just for Black women, it's for the community as whole. But we all know that the Black woman has been the stronghold of keeping our community together. And by them doing that, we owe them at least that.
I thank you, Nico. What a great point. And I think that's your brother, right? Tell us about this idea that the women are getting the message, but the men aren't.
Yeah. So
I mean,
go ahead, Nico.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say they're not getting the message. I just think they're just ignoring the messages. It's right there for them. It's just a lot of times, it's always case by case, but I mean, I look at it as a whole. In the Black community, it's a lot of Black on Black crime. It's just it's the mentality amongst each other, where women as a whole, whether Black or white, tend not to feed into a lot of negativity, and they're always trying to better themselves. And so where men feel like they have a lot of external issues and want to blame this person and blame that person, instead of looking at the man in the mirror, so to speak, and addressing them head on. And that's what I love about what Tracye does. Even though her books are centered or labeled like they're for women, they're not necessarily just for women. I have both of her books. And within that, I read them, and I don't take it as like, oh, this is just for women. Yes, I am.
Oh, yay. Okay. Well, Nico, I want to thank you for calling in. I want to thank you for being such a great brother. And I want to get Tracye's reaction to what you said, because I think it's so important. So thank you so much for calling, Nico. Really a pleasure. So take it away. Do you see
Thank
that
you.
disconnect between the men and the women?
Yeah, thank you.
And within that, you know,
Okay. Thank you, Nico. Yeah.
Nico is my brother, not my physical brother.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're good friends, and he's definitely a vegan and promoting Vigo within the go-go community in DC and elsewhere. But you know, there's so much there that he said, and speaking as a man who is vegan and who is trying to talk to Black men in DC communities about veganism, he knows what he's talking about and what he has experienced, right?
yeah.
So, you know, I co-sign that. I will say that, you know, there are Black vegan men out here who are specifically addressing men, right? So you can find them all over the place. And I think that, you know, there's Milton Mills MD, there's Will Tucker Fitness, there is Badass Vegan. There are lots of folks who are doing
Gray.
Yeah.
Who did the Thanksgiving, one of my favorite music videos ever.
There's Stick from Dead Prez. There's there's so many people, right, who are Black men who are vegan, who are promoting this, and you know, specifically talking to Black men. And so what I do with focusing on Black women is, you know, this is something that's needed, that I've always known is needed, something that I wish that I had when I went vegan 33 years ago, someone who specifically talked to Black women, and I know that it's still needed today. And Black women are still the ones who are primarily cooking the food, who are primarily making the doctor's appointments, who are primarily the ones responsible for the health of the families, right? Whether it's their own family or their extended family. And so in targeting Black women, you are targeting the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I think there's a push-pull. Like, one of the things that I love is that concept that we're all earthlings. And yet, within that, it's okay to focus on specific groups who have specific needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a combination. We don't want to make the misconception that just because, let's say, African-American women are focusing on this issue, it doesn't apply to other people. Of course it does. Yeah. And just because we're talking about something that applies to women doesn't mean it doesn't apply to men. So there's that kind of push-pull where you want to focus and help specific groups while still maintaining this concept that we're all earthlings. And, you know, we've only got about a minute left. I do feel that climate change, you know, the law of unintended consequences, I'm a big believer in it. And I feel that climate change is going to bring us together, because Mother Nature being making a big point with, I believe, you know, the pig virus, the coronavirus, the bird flu, all of these are based on animal agriculture's toxicity and how dangerous it is. Nature is saying stop, and we are all at risk. These kinds of diseases, while they may be starting in one country, but they don't discriminate. I believe climate change and these horrors will bring us together, that we're all earthlings and we've got to save the earth or we will all die.
Absolutely.
We're just about out of time. Tracye, I just think you're such an inspiration. I just love your work. You really have taken this and just taken it to the next level and the next level. Please come back after you're finished your campaign. I don't know if it will ever finish, but give us an update on 10,000 Black vegan women. And again, you can go to 10,000blackveganwomen.com. So I'll say it one more time, 10,000blackveganwomen.com. Sign up. All right. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Voice America influencers, Tacey Trump, our EP,
All clear.
Andrew in the control room. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.